Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Kid Ankh Ageplay podcast. So, quick little introduction here. I want you guys to know that this is one of two of my most anticipated interviews that I get to do, and I'm
Oh,
super
geez.
excited for this. um, so, quick introduction. A while ago, this is probably about maybe a couple of years ago now, I think, I had came across some really cool content, and I was very much interested in knowing more about this person's work, and I was super excited when I got the chance to see it. This was, I think this is like maybe it has to be about 4 or 5 years ago that you did it was an ABDL babying video that you did, and I I'm trying to remember. I think that if I'm not mistaken, that's what it was.
Was it
But
like a POV?
yeah, it was definitely a POV.
Yeah, I know. I know the video you're talking about. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And I happened when I created the Twitter and the podcast and everything, I came across your page, and I was like, yeah, I got to hopefully I'll be able to chat with this person one day. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce everyone to Mercy West. He is very, very, very talented in what he does, and I personally think
Ooh.
that your work is absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, I'm really glad to have you on the show.
Uh, well, thank you. I don't that. That's quite the pardon me, introduction. I'm all choking up here. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm really glad that you reached out to me when I was just looking for folks to talk to. And we set this up. So
Yeah, definitely. I'm because if it wasn't for I believe I'm saying it right, Ayla and Bailey sending me a direct quote tweet, I would I'm glad that they did, because I was able to catch that tweet of you asking about this. So I was like, yeah, no, definitely, I would love to work with Mercy West. So yeah, this is like my one of my bucket list things knocked off here. So
oh, thank you.
so I have a couple of more. I have a couple of more bucket list things I have to get done in my lifetime. But this is definitely one that I'm glad that I was able to do. So, how long, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been in the industry?
Um, well, it's let's see. I did my first kinky photo shoot right around the age of 19, because I was involved with like local BDSM groups, and like really just something I had been thinking a lot about before I could actually participate in it. And then when I turned 18, 19, not the industry, but just like BDSM dungeons and local sex clubs and stuff. And as soon as I turned old enough to be able to explore with that stuff, I did. And I met someone at a local dungeon who wanted to take some pictures, and I was totally, I knew they were going to end up on the internet. I knew they were going to have my body in them. I was going to be naked. There was going to be artsy rope suspension photos. I can't see the air quotes that I used there, um, but for artsy. And it went really well. It was a great experience. I had a nice time, and I sort of did it on and off as far as modeling and webcam stuff for the next couple of years, sort of just whenever I needed a little help with bills or whatever. And then when I moved to Portland, about a decade ago, that's when I really, started getting more into the BDSM scene, and meeting more people that were making their own porn, and clip stores were just becoming a thing. And so I'm gonna say since I was 18, and I'll tell you I'm 33.
Oh
I
wow.
what was the yeah, so that was pretty much since I was 18, about 13, 14, 15 years now, but solidly doing it full time about the past decade. So I know that was a long answer, sorry, but
No, no, no. That's perfect. Like
full
your answers
time.
can listen. Your answers can be as long as you want them to be,
Oh,
because we have nothing but time here.
but
So
but yeah, it's something that's always been there since I was able to do it, and since I could use it as like a as income and as sort of like personal sexual exploration and stuff. I've just been doing it.
you see, I 100% agree with the whole sexual exploration because I know for a fact with me doing the same type of work, I've discovered a lot more about myself that I didn't know. That, and I'm somehow letting my art degree kick in. Uh, I went to school for video game design, and somehow what I learned
Oh,
in
really?
that, yeah, what I learned in that, I have been applying to porn, and not gonna lie, it's actually works out. So yeah, I have to
I
give.
love finding out where people come from, like what other worlds that people like bleed into the, the porn world from. I love it.
Yeah, because I originally wanted to be in the game industry, and then what happened was is the game industry is just filled with the guys that like basically didn't do their homework or cheated on most of the tests. So I was just like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna sully my name like this. If I'm gonna do that, I can do it myself. God damn it! And then
Uh-huh.
I immediately went into porn, and I was like, wow, this is way more prestigious than what I was thinking before.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yay! Thank you for your origin story there.
Yeah, because I attended school in Pittsburgh. I'm still in Pittsburgh actually. And they had like I still remember to this day. It was like I broke up with my ex. We it was like a what 3 or 4 year relationship that just went south, and I was just like,
Mhm.
okay, I want to do something for myself. Got into porn,
Yep.
and joined the kink community, and that was my introduction into everything. So like I started on FetLife, then I
Pet life. Pet life.
yeah, yeah, it's not like it's so weird talking about it now because you know damn well that site is
Oh, we had fun, didn't we? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. uh
uh,
yeah, so yeah, it wasn't bad. It was just that I didn't get into porn until about 3 years ago. I've been in the community for about 12 years. I
mhm.
because I joined the kink community, and yeah, I completely get you on this because it's definitely something that does help you just explore. So I enjoy hearing how you got to this because that was actually that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's definitely relatable because as far as porn, I'd always been pretty kinky. It was in relationships on and off where I could or couldn't be kinky or could or couldn't really be myself. And then there
Hmm.
was a point where I just decided I needed to start being myself. Um, and uh, talking about, positive entries, even though, I have, um, let me restart that there. Um, Talking, just about your entry into the industry, it's nice to hear stories like that because personally, I started it when I was younger, and I didn't have like a bad view of it. It just wasn't anything I ever saw myself really doing like consistently and really,
Hmm.
getting into. And then I was actually having some issues and talking to my therapist, who was queer and kink friendly, and we came to the conclusion together that like exploring my sexuality through working, doing, working in the adult industry, and being able to like set really clear boundaries as far as like what could and couldn't happen on camera, and what, you know, being able to tell people what I was capable of, and setting, you know, expectations for people and stuff of what I could do. It was they totally supported me. They were like, you know, I think basically I wanted to be a slut, but I was afraid of sleeping with random people. That was my whole thing. I was like, I want to fuck people. I want to be a total slut, but I don't trust random ass people. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
just don't. And so he's like, we were trying to figure out, he's like, I understand that. It's like a reasonable concern and we can work on your anxiety, but like, what can we do that isn't you just like hooking up with people, but is you just hooking up with people? And
Mm-hmm.
we thought about it, and I talked about my time in porn, and or my time with like doing some adult things here and there. And I was doing phone sex work at the time. I've done phone sex work consistently for the past decade. And he was like, just do it. It's fine. It's totally fine if you call up your friends that that have a BDSM website, and you want to work for them, and you know they'll pay you to have fun and do what you would do at the club anyway. And you know that if you feel like it, maybe fuck someone on camera, or maybe, you know, do something kind of kinky and fetishy that you wouldn't normally do but you want to explore with, like. So it was great having a having a really positive like sort of oh sort of, not mentor, I can't think of the word, but he was just a really positive influence on me as far as like really supporting me. And it was so nice to come from a place of, you know, family or friends or whatever questioning me and being like, I talked to my therapist about this. I talked to my therapist about this. This is a healthy thing that I'm doing for myself. This is a good thing that I'm doing for myself. I'm going to keep myself as safe as possible. End of story. Like, and it's honestly, it's been a love affair ever since. I've just made so many videos and worked with so many people, and that's limited now because of COVID. But honestly, like you said, I've learned so much about myself. Through porn and through, especially through phone sex, honestly. And it's just, I feel like such a, as much as it's been tough, and, you know, I, I've had to do, you know, had to be a part of, had to be a survival sex worker, like on and off, and have not been in like the best situations always. I am so glad that I have sex work. It's great. Like, it is such a great tool to have. It is so wonderful that I get to like meet all these people and do all these things, and like, it's just great.
No, that's the absolute truth. Now, one thing I wanted to point out that I
Sure.
find fascinating is you said phone sex work, right?
Hmm.
It's amazing to me that what are we in, like the 21st, 22nd century? Is this the 22nd century yet?
What people always say. This is what
Yeah,
people
and we're
always.
still doing this. And
Yeah.
like I remember like back in the day when I was a kid, they used to have the like it used to come on during wrestling. Yeah, call in to have like this awesome call here with the
Yeah.
hot like with hot singles, and it was like I remember that. And then like when people tell me, "Oh yeah, I do like phone sex work," I'm like, "What? That's still around?" Like
Yeah.
but that's awesome. Like I love that because it's the one of the is one of the older forms of sex work versus like video
Sure.
arcades, which Pittsburgh, no joke,
Oh.
had a video
Oh.
arcade. They just got rid of it about during COVID.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Portland had a couple of those that do not exist now anymore
Hmm.
because of COVID. So sure, sure. The phone sex thing, I that's funny that you mention it that way, because the people that I started doing phone sex with over like a little over a decade ago. It was a small independent business. There weren't like a bunch of really big sites like Night Flirt
Hmm.
and I don't know, there's Talk to Me, and I don't know what the fuck else, Sex Panther, and all these other things. Those didn't really exist, and individual websites were still a thing because it was
Hmm.
like not the early 2000s, but like into the 2000s. And so I worked with a company that had been around since the mid 80s, who was owned by a guy from New York, who it was called mid to late 80s, called Bay City Blues. And it was and it was really interesting because I kind of got to learn like the whole back end of the business of how it really sort of was in the beginning of the internet, not pre-internet, but at the beginning of the internet, and sort of just there were only, it was like a group specifically for women in Portland, and it was all like local people, and it was cute. It was really nice. We were ourselves. A lot of people and this isn't saying anything bad, but a lot of people use pictures that aren't their own to do phone sex. They do a lot of fantasy stuff, and so we were all ourselves, and that was kind of our gimmick. And it was great. It was a nice little community. We all were like on a little chat together, and would like, you know, pass clients between each other and give each other notes. And we had a little operator who would direct the calls and stuff. And it was real old fashioned and fun. And the thing about phone sex, though, and you say, you know, I totally agree with you that it's amazing that it's still a thing. But it's more of a specialized thing now. And I think instead, I mean, yeah, sure, I get a lot of like regular ass calls with dudes just wanting to jerk off and talk about whatever, normal things. But really, people will do research, and then they will find someone who they can talk to about very, very specific things. It's very specific fetish things. I like have a line where I specialize in talking to people about like things that they went through that were like traumatic, that they want to talk about, like that there are like things they want to like just tell me that they went through, talk about memories that they have and stuff, like whatever. So it's really really have to be more specialized. You have to be very one thing and be very good at it. And I sort of specialize in like taboo and unique or rare fetishes, fantasies, stuff like that. And really, that's very arbitrary. That word taboo, like a lot of a lot of people
Yeah.
consider doing anything queer is taboo, you know, if they're very straight. So it's a very broad range of things that I can cover. But yeah, I think I mostly specialize in things, and that's where the ABDL definitely comes in. I get a lot of ABDL calls, whether it's role play or people just wanting to talk and be heard and just be able to like interact with someone who isn't weirded out by what they're into. And but yeah, there's a broad range of things people call me for, but it needs to be more specialized, and I've been doing it for a long time, so
Fair.
it's yeah.
I have a question
Sure.
because this is like, so was it you doing sex work that introduced you to ABDL, or was that a thing before that?
Um, it wasn't really. It was a thing that I was aware of. It was a
Mm-hmm.
thing that was like um, in my uh, view. I was like, I would go to BDSM clubs, and I think one of the first people that I actually interacted with and like had a conversation with when I went to my first BDSM club, and this was like a in the meat packing district in a small little town in like the in the southwest, like had to like show up to like two meetings before you could even go to the parties, so you had to sign a waiver and then bring food. I brought soda. And but it was a person in a diaper and puppy ears with like a tutu, and we sat and talked about, I don't know, whatever fucking political stuff was going on at that time, because I was sitting there eating a ham sandwich and wasn't playing at the moment. And so it was something that was always around. I knew that it was like, I knew it was the subject of ridicule and judgment. I knew that like it was a really sensitive topic for some people, like a thing that you could not talk to a lot of people about, or like some people, if you did talk to them, you're a lot of people are either very accepting or very, very unaccepting. I found out really quickly, and like I
Mm-hmm.
knew these things were around, but then I actually, pardon me, my throat's a little dry. I became involved with someone who, when we got together, I knew they were submissive. I knew they were into specific things. But one day they approached me and they were like, "Hey, there's this thing that I'm into. I need to talk to you about it because you probably aren't going to want to like see me anymore." And I'm like, "It's fine. I can promise you that it's going to be fine, unless it's like something really horrific." And And they were like, all right, sure. And they, started telling me about ABDL stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, I have people that I know that are into that and shoot that kind of stuff. And that's fine. That's not like any sort of deal breaker or anything. Like, I think that's great. And they were really shocked, of course. And I, I was just like totally down. And I remember they put me in a diaper for the first time. I remember they did that, and I cried. I was so, it was such a, it was strange, like deeply ingrained, like stressful, like fun. I don't know. I'm sure kinky people can understand this. Like it was
Yeah.
a fun thing, but it was very just intense. And then once that was over, once I was diapered for the first time and I got that out, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. This is totally fun and silly, and I love it. And um then from there on, I was like super into it, and I actually ended up like exploring more with my gender because of ABDL and taking on a daddy role and being able to be in that in a relationship, and take on that sort of role in a relationship and really be able to lean into my more I guess masculine feelings or whatever. I don't know exactly how to describe it. But and it was really helpful in helping me like come to terms with being agender and really just uh, I ended up becoming more into it than they were, in the sense of
Really?
they still struggled with like having issues with just wanting to purge fairly frequently, like just get rid of stuff, and like be like, no, it's fine, I don't need this, it's not something I need in my life. And then they I would be like, okay, it's fine, whatever. And then they wouldn't be enjoying being like with, I could just tell they weren't, present when we were fooling around or doing something. And then I would
Mm.
try to like add it in because I know that's something they like. And of course, that's what it was, that they were trying to avoid that. But then they would get frustrated with me because I'm bringing it up when they're trying to purge. And I'm just like, but it's nothing you need to. So it was totally difficult and hard. And I had to end up just sort of not playing for a while after that relationship ended because it reminded me of that person. It was a really tough
Mm.
thing to do. And then when I just decided to start making porn of it. Then I just started getting more comfortable and getting back into it, and then started to be able to explore more. And that's been like the last 6 or 7 years of just being able to really become more comfortable with it, and not have it remind me of things that I don't want to think of. And
Mm.
I have met some amazing people and had some really, really great play sessions with people, filmed and not. And like, I've met some really interesting folks that I would have not met otherwise. But yeah, I think really it was just that person. I just, if I wouldn't have met my partner at that time and they wouldn't have been into it, then I don't know, maybe I would have never really discovered that it was something that I really love. But I'm a real switch at heart, so I like topping and I like bottoming, and I really like all the different dynamics that can come into play. And I'm huge into medical play, and so of course like that can be wrapped up in all of that. So I'm just a big kinky mess over here.
See, the medical play and stuff like that, I got into later because, well, that's not exactly accurate.
Well, it's
Let me.
probably the first like part of it that I got into. I got into medical play really early, and so that's, now that I think of it, mentioning it, like yeah, I think that's probably where I first saw like diapers and catheters and other things like
Hmm.
that, and was like, yeah, this is the thing. So sure, medical play, yeah.
Yeah, because for me, like I was explaining this on a previous podcast. Uh, I didn't learn about ABDL from the U.S., which is weird. all
Sure, sure.
all of my learning of ABDL came from overseas.
Mm,
Like when I was a teenager, when I first got my first computer, I was like junior high, high school. I was like every other teen that jumps on the internet and the first thing you look up is porn. It's like that's just what I did.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but I prior to that had realize I was into diapers because I had found a box in my grandmother's basement and tried diapers
Isn't
on for the
that how
first. Yeah,
it
yeah, and just tried them on, and luckily I was at the time thin enough to be able to fit them, and that was a thing. And like it, and I was explaining this on the podcast that like my grandmother always thought it was just a phase and it would just go away, and then I was curious and wanted to learn more about ABDL. And because I had heard about it from like Jerry Springer, but then I was like,
Oh,
eh,
no. Oh my gosh, we heard so many things. I heard about so many things from Jerry Springer. Yeah.
yeah. So I immediately, it was just like, yeah, I want to know more about this. So I wanted to know if I was really the only person that would be into that. And I did research, and the first thing, after about, I think, an hour and a half, I was able to find a website that actually talked about it. And it was Wet Set Magazine, actually. And yeah, and I was reading articles and seeing photos and stuff, and I was like, this is awesome. I didn't know that other people were into this.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and then funny enough, I didn't talk to anybody on the internet back then. All I did was research, and I just kept reading up about it. And then years later, when I turned 18, I was like, okay, I am going to go on an 18 plus site, and we're going to have a whole, not like I wasn't already there, but I wasn't talking to anyone.
Yeah.
But I decided that I would talk to people, and the first person that I ever talked to in the community, ironically, is Apple. So,
Okay.
yeah, so, and that was on artwork. And that was pretty cool back then. And then years later, I was online. I was going from site to site, but I wasn't really trying to be like learn anymore because I thought, hey, it's gonna be real hard to try to get a girlfriend. But and I don't know if that's going to be a thing that I can get a girlfriend on. So I went back to being completely vanilla and being miserable the entire time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so like I had bought a whole bunch of videos and stuff at one point, and while I was in college, some friends of mine went on my computer and they were going to pull a prank, and they found.
Oh no! You can't see the shock on my face right now, listeners. But my goodness, I'm just bright red.
Yeah, they were going to pull a prank on me, and what happened is that they found this one folder, and it was like called Fall Wars, and he's like, "Wait, why is it called that? This is obviously a Guild Wars like folder. Why is it called?" And then my friend went into it, and they were like, "Oh." And what happens is that now this is where it gets funny. Years like about months after this, like I ended up talking to my friends and those same friends, and I was like, yeah guys, I think I'm gonna move out of the dorms. And they're like, why? I was like, because I want to get my own place. They're like, why do you want to get your own place so badly? And I was like, well, because I went to my first munch. And they were like, oh, you went to your first kink event? I'm like, how did you guys know about they were like, they were like, oh no, we know. I was like, well then I better make this quick. Well, the first thing I wanted to tell you guys is, and they're like, you're an ABDL.
Oh my goodness.
And they were like, we don't care, we still love you, you have always been awesome and always accepted us and always treated us like family. So they were like, and plus, who the fuck cares that you like these, like that you like wearing different undergarments? No one gives a fuck. And I was like, wow, guys. One of my best friends in town, who, oh my god, this guy, he comes in and he goes, no, I won't accept this. And I was like, why? He says, you. I thought it was like, I thought he was gonna make a bigger deal about it than he was. He goes, no, you can't be kinkier than me. I'm supposed to be the person that's the kinkiest here, and which is really weird because he's very vanilla. So I don't know what the hell like.
He knows what he means.
we just got it. Like it was ridiculous, and I ended up work. I actually this is 2 places ago because I've moved twice since I was here. When I was living like on the other side of the river, I actually what happened was is that I had a place, I had my own room, and it was a work in progress room. Like it looked like the mixture between like a starting nursery and a college like dorm
Yeah.
room. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like a desk. They had a desk and everything, a bin of toys. I had a closet that was just big enough to hold cases of diapers. So every time that I was getting the school refund checks to pay for the house or to pay for where I was staying, I was also paying for like cases of diapers that I would have for like that
Yeah.
entire time. It was so much fun, and I really enjoyed that. And I started working more with the community and everything, and then there was a whole big fallout, and I left the community for a while, and then all of a sudden I'm back and doing this podcast again. Well, the truth is that like this podcast has been going ever since those days. So yeah, this is one of the longest running podcasts out there. I think I'm I think I am one of the longest running ABDL podcasts now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think you know, that story with you and your roommates is really sweet. And I'm trying to think. I think really the one experience that I have, because I've always, just everyone in my life has to know, like I'm not one of those people like that can hide anything anymore. Like I was for a long time, and now I have to have friends who they don't have to like experience or like, you know, have my kink be forced on them, but they're gonna know. I need people that are okay,
Mm-hmm.
or that are at least okay with telling me if they're not okay with something that I'm saying or talking about or whatever, as far as like their comfort level. But everybody knows what the fuck's going on with me. But I was when I was going through the breakup with my partner that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard. It was like one of the hardest things that I had gone through as far as breakups, just because I wasn't just their partner, I was daddy. And that was really, it was a really tough dynamic to sort of separate. And there were like a lot of, you know, there's probably like unhealthy codependency shit going on too. But it was a really tough dynamic to like sort of, you know, have to end. And I had to, um, I help take care of my mom. She has like medical issues, and so
Mm-hmm.
I help do stuff around the house and stuff. And I was just really fucked up over everything, and I had to sort of. I just ended up having a breakdown, and I couldn't not like, you know, tell her what was going on because we're really close, but I
Mm-hmm.
had to explain. I'm like, I seem, it's so painful. Like it's been so hard. I've been sort of like somewhat secretive about it because of this. And this is the dynamic. And, you know, it's really, really hard to lose them. And you know, all this stuff. And she was just really wonderful and totally accepting, and was just like, you know, I'm sure that's really hard. You know, it seemed like you really enjoyed being, you know, their daddy and taking care of them. And I just like, you know, they're like, I know that's just going to be really hard for you, and I'm here for you. And like, it was really nice. Like, she's always been really wonderful and accepting, but like, even I was like, I understand if this is a little too far. Like, if this
Mm-hmm.
is just something you don't want to know about. And, but you know, it was just fine. And it's just, you know, people surprise you for sure.
They definitely do.
That is the truth. Uh, and so yeah, having that sort of support in my life, and being able to know that I don't have to like sneak around, or know that if somebody finds something, or, you know, like my mom's helping me paint stuff in my nursery. You know, she likes
Mm-hmm.
doing stuff with bright colors and painting and junk, so we're going to do like a little rainbow tree spaceship mural thing on the nursery wall.
That's
And
freaking awesome.
yeah, it's she's amazing. So so it's just, you know, I think it really helps to be able to have those experiences of people like not rejecting you, and being able to just, be able to be yourself. And and I definitely encourage people to try to seek out other people that will accept you and
Hmm.
understand you, and care about you.
I agree with that. Funny that you said the whole thing about like with your mom. With me, it's my grandmother and my mom. So they
Sure.
were like they are the family that I've had. It's more family members now, but originally it was just those two. My grandmother, I told when I first joined the community, and when but she had never seen any of my stuff or anything, but she knew about it. My mom, on the other hand, found out by accident. Um,
Oh.
yeah, it was actually like to this day, like my grandmother took this to her grave, and she laughed every day she saw me because of the incident. What happened was it was Christmas. I went back home. I fell asleep in my room, and my mom wanted to give me more blankets, thinking it was too cold. I fell asleep, and I told myself to put on sweatpants, and I didn't. So she pulls the so she's just like she walks into my room. She goes, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah, why? I'm asleep." I did not care that she's doing it.
That's a classic response.
Yeah,
Classic response. Like,
yeah. She just goes, "Are you okay?" And I
there's
go,
something medically wrong with you. Are
"Yeah."
you okay?
And then she goes, "Why did you take your grandmother's diapers for?" And I go, "Excuse me? This shit is way more expensive. I'm sleep talking." I didn't realize that I would have that response. I woke up the next morning. My grandmother is cracking up, and she's like, "Well, she's like, what's going? What, I says, we'll talk about it in the morning. I'm too tired to talk now. Roll over and go back to sleep." I wake up the next morning. My grandmother goes, "Do you know what took place?" And I go, "What?" She says, "You yelled at your mother for like walking in on you." I says, "Oh." She's like, "Yeah." And then I hear my mom call me, and she goes, "I can't help you." She says, "This is way too funny." She's like, "I want to see what happens with this." So my mom goes, "Okay, so what happened? What happened to you?" I was like, "Nothing happened." I says, "A matter of fact, we'll just make this easy." And then she's like, "Okay, how?" I was like, "First off, I joined the kink community." "Oh, what's the kink community? Like BDSM? Like 50 Shades of Grey?" "No, that's not the right thing. I have to explain this." So we had a 30-minute explanation of what the kink community was. And then she goes, "But I don't understand why diapers." So I said to her, I says, "Well, this is just my thing per se." I says, "However, I'll point this out. When I moved out, you said you didn't care whether I wore women's panties or not. I, instead of choosing women's panties, chose diapers. I don't see a problem here." And my mom looked at me and was like, "Well, you did use my words against me." She's like, "I don't care for it, but I'll support it since you're not really doing it. There's nothing wrong." Now she feels completely differently about it, and she actually like thinks that it's adorable, and she's just like, "I love the fact that your grandmother was so happy in her last days that you were helping people accept themselves in the community." So, yeah.
Aw, yeah, that's that is so freaking adorable. I love it. No, it can be really difficult. Like, that's one of the reasons that I, really, it's why I like to do the phone sex work. Because also it's like I was saying, because phone sex is so specialized. It's also just people who um usually are very shy, and usually they don't want to do cam stuff. Maybe they want to watch, my porn with me, and talk to me on the phone. I get a lot of that stuff, but it's 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 helpful to people, being able to talk about things, being able to relate to someone, or being able to just, like, be yourself. And so I just, having people in your life that know that you're not just, I only talk to one half of my family. The other half of my family, I do not speak to them. They found out accidentally and did not have a nice a nice reaction. But you know, it's fuck, I totally lost my train of thought. God damn it. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Oh yeah, to have people in your life that understand that you like are actually you're having a good time, but you're helping people. Like you're actually, you know, by being yourself and by being out
Mm-hmm.
there and by just existing in some sort of public space as yourself, and in a way that a lot of people are afraid to, you know, exist in their own lives, it's important. It's like one of the things that I see. It's like the least I can do. Like it's something that I'm showing people that other people like them exist. Like it's really just meeting people where they're at and being honest about who I am is like the least
Mm-hmm.
I can do as far as like being a sex worker. And it's just I love everything is built on that as far as being a kink and taboo friendly sex worker and focusing on ABDL and knowing that a lot of times when people are seeking out sex workers, whether it's in person or over the phone or on the internet, it's it's like a tough thing. It's not an easy thing for a lot of people. It's not an easy. Imagine it like asking for help. Like not everybody's good at asking for help, and it's like asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like for a lot of people, even though that's not like actually, you know, they're not saying it to me, that's what they're doing, and so it's really hard for people. And I just knowing that I'm helping people, knowing I have people in my life like my mom and like other close friends who are in the adult industry and stuff, just that they know how important it is. Like this is not unimportant work. It's different. It's not what everybody chooses to do, but it's what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. And also you talking about your mom finding out accidentally. I I never got to I got a call from one of my sisters, like a frantic call from one of my half sisters who I never really talked to, about that they saw something online and it was awful and they can't believe I would ever do that. They would never tell me what they saw though. And this and so part of me thinks that it might be ABDL, like it might be something with diapers, I'm not sure, but they just refused to tell me what they saw that just like blew their minds and made them, and this started the whole thing with us, like I ended up not talking, like stopping to talking to that side of the family because
Mm-hmm.
of this incident where they just could not keep their cool in the slightest. Like, oh my God, these people, they're just like the least cool, like individuals ever. Like, I understand if you hate it, if you're religious, if you're just zero chill on anybody's part. Like, just, I, and I was just losing it because I find it all very funny when people get super upset about like people doing what they want to do with their own bodies, like people being horrified by it, and I'm like, this is what I do. It's me. Whatever. They you know kept saying like, well, did you think no one would ever find it? I'm like, no, I put it out there. I was prepared. I'm not an idiot. Like I'm not.
It's the same thing with myself. It's like I had a conversation with a cousin at one point, and it was just like us just talking. And then at some point, they were like, "Oh, so what do you do on your free time?" And they were like, "Well, you just play video games." Actually, no, I go to sex clubs. Wait, what? I was like, "Yeah, I go to sex clubs." I was like, "I go to sex clubs. Why? Why would you do that? Because it's fun." I was like, do you not know the fun of going to a sex club? I like you should go. It's hell. Like don't just pause. Like go live your life. Go and do something. And they're just like, are this is a joke, right? I'm like, no, I'm not laughing. Like I actually go to sex clubs. It's like
But
it's
people just need permission though. That's the thing. Like I know that just having, you know, my therapist and like one of my partners being like, yeah, go for it. Just go for it. Go like do porn. Just shoot porn. It'll be fine. You're an adult. You can make that decision. Go for it. If
yeah.
that's what you want. And I just was like, it was like 5 light bulbs popped up over the top of my head. I was like, shit, I am an adult. Fuck, I can do what I want. Like, this is amazing. Like, I
I
am going to do porn. I am going to be an escort. I'm going to do what I want to do. You know, I am allowed to do this shit. Like, it's just insane.
see I can't I wouldn't be able to yell I'm an adult like that, like you just did, because it would get turned to a meme so fast. Because I would, it'll say I'm an adult surrounded by toys and diapers.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, mm.
Oh my goodness.
I,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like no, you're right about about having that support system and having those like having those people that you can talk to, because that does make a difference. It also makes a difference, like that people try to be open minded to actually understand more about like different things that exist out there, like how you were like my cousin and your half sister. It make like there's that disconnect where
Yeah.
they don't quite get it. And like I've had my cousin actually say like, "Oh, well, did you ever think that you want to do something else?" And I'm always telling them, "No. Like I
Yeah.
like what I do. Like I I have done I have had a lot of successful aspirations. So like yeah, I says now my aspirations are all like bucket list things that I want to do before I turn 80." And they're like,
Right? It's yeah, you get to once you've gone through enough stuff and you get to a certain point, it's just like you have to live that way. I mean,
"Mhm.
you can't not do what you need to do to just get through life, you know? It's you can't keep fighting yourself constantly. Like that was the problem with my ex, was like he just was constantly, it seemed like, fighting upstream about, you know, just with his desires and wants, and like if it's a part of you, it's a part of you. Like it's just, you know, it's that's the thing. You can't I don't know. I mean, you know, and you mentioning stuff earlier, talking about going on sites and stuff when you were younger, it reminded me. The first time I think I saw someone in a diaper outside of like Jerry Springer,
Mhm.
like in some other, what, I don't know, whatever other TV show I saw something on, but was on MySpace, and it was a couple who the husband was a sissy maid and wore diapers, and I was just like, yes, I would like a dude to dress up like a chick and do my dishes and like make my bed and walk my dog in a nice pretty latex thing. And I guess if diapers are their thing, that's fine too. And like,
That's funny cuz I know exactly who you're talking about."
I was obsessed. Yeah, it was early. It was definitely early MySpace, and it
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
very nice couple. I believe I wrote to them and said something very nice and very innocent, and it was very just like, oh, it's just been very nice to watch you guys, and like you live your life and you seem so happy. Like, is this just like a show, or is this how you really live your life? And like I was just like super fucking fascinated.
Mhm.
And honestly, like I think it's been there since then. And I also just like I grew up way too damn fast, so like I and spent a lot of time alone as a kid. So like little stuff was kind of always there for me, but I just like suppressed it. It was just something that, like, you know, if I wanted a binky, or I, you know, like
Mhm.
liked certain, if I wanted stuffies or whatever, like it wasn't like it was shamed or like I couldn't have it, but it was just sort of like, you'll grow out of that or whatever. It's like, it's, you're a little too old for that. That's not something that you do, you know. And now I realize, looking back, I'm like, no, this is like part of the whole thing for me. So
No, that makes sense. Like that because like even for me, a lot of these action figures that you see around me, all this stuff, I bought when I was a teenager. Like a lot of this stuff I bought when I was a teenager and I was still playing with them. I dated a girl who actually knew I played with action figures, and she was like, "Why? Like, is it fun?" I'm like, "Yeah, it gives me something to do." And she's like, "That's so awesome that you like do this and you don't care." I'm like, "Yeah, no, seriously." It was like I come up with whole storylines, just like it's really fun. I just yeah, it's one of those things that I'm really glad I had, because it life itself was stressful.
Mhm.
Like yeah,
Sure. Yeah, and that's another thing too. I was not prepared when getting into, not to like totally, this is related, I promise, but like getting into just like learning more about the ABDL community and learning more about like what the perception of the community and what the perception of the kink and the sexual versus non-sexual and how stringent and angry people are about, like, you know,
The two
like, this is
sides,
the
yeah.
right way to do it, this is the wrong way, don't, you know, whatever. I was not expecting that, and I was not expecting to how like what a visceral reaction some people have to it, like just how and negatively, like negative sort of just like uh, I just until I met my ex, like I just thought it was just like another kink, it's just like another thing. And then we went to a dungeon party and I was like, all right, whatever, like this fucking table back here is open, we're gonna put you in a diaper, and that's fine because that's what you want to do, and it's a kink party. And like people were looking at us and like not a great way. And but it was the same thing, like straight dungeon parties suck when they're not like
Yeah.
queer oriented or whatever. Straight dungeon parties suck. So they looked at me weird because I had a fucking strap on, let alone like the diaper blew their mind. But because it was all like dudes with like their submissive chicks, and then I was the only like somewhat femmed top. And so that was, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I just was not expecting how fucking weird people get about this shit. Like,
I'm glad that you said that, because like
but it's for fun, and like life sucks. Like,
it does. And it's, I'm glad that you brought that up, because like I've done a podcast episode in the past about like my experience at my very first dungeon party, and it was kind of exactly what you said, except for it was me and one other AB and like my kink sister at this party. And what happens is that like this one woman, I'll never forget this, it was like this white woman came up to me and she goes, "I don't know why you're into that." I was like, "What?" And then she go, "Yeah, this gets wild." She says, "I don't know why you're into that." I was like, "Into what?" She's like, "The diapers and stuff like that. I don't know, it's kink is all about how much sex you can have with it." And I was like, "That's not true." I was like, "That's a very primitive understanding of what kink is." And then she says, "Seriously, all I think it is that this just makes you a waste of big black cock." Walks off. And I
what?
was like,
Oh my god, that's horrible. That's fucking awful.
yeah,
I'm
it's
laughing because it feels so terrible. Like, please, I don't know. That's awful. I'm so sorry you had to experience that. Holy
that
shit.
that entire thing. Well, that was only part of it. Like I tell this story a lot, and every time I tell this story, I like there's always a group of people that have a shocked Pikachu face. It's like
I mean, I 100% believe it. As a yes, I completely believe it, and I know what happens.
let me just say that night ended on me being told that they didn't want ABs there in the first place, even though they invited them after a seminar that was on ABDL. This is more how the community was 10 years ago, guys. So
Sure, sure.
it's
Yeah,
it's,
no,
it's different
that
now.
sounds completely accurate. That sounds
Yeah,
completely accurate.
but one of the end of the night, my sister and I in the carpooling back home, get asked if we wanted to be a part of a plantation party. And we were like,
What?
"What?" And it was, yeah, no.
I don't know what that is. I know it's something horrible, but I don't know what that is. What is it and what?
So what they wanted us to do was they wanted us to my sister and I to dress up as servants and serve food to all the people there, but they
Gotcha.
wanted us to be okay with people forcing themselves on us. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Got it.
"No."
Oh, so it was like a sex party thing too?
It was,
Like
but it was mostly for swingers,
a,
and
okay, gotcha. Oh yeah.
and they were trying to do it to degrade like there. Now, mind you, this is 10 years ago when there was only 8 black people in my community, like
Yeah.
literally 8. And
Yeah.
they came up to the new ones to ask them to be a part of this plantation party, and for us to do all of this. And they were not like, they were telling us, and the first thing she goes is, "Well, you can't be letting anybody know about all the diaper shit that you're into. Like, that's not important. And I'm like, oh God. So I immediately was like, no. I was traumatized from that.
Yeah, yeah, no way. I don't blame you.
Yeah, I ended up what I ended up doing was is that right after that I ended up making this podcast, and I think the first episode was really me talking about that situation, and me just like being not okay, and then trying to figure out. I you can see in the old podcast where it's me talking about like wanting to make the community's etiquette better so that we're more accepted. And ironically, now it's way the community is way better now than it was 10 years ago, and I'm really grateful for that, because I would like to believe that the podcast actually did something, but I know that it reached a few people, because I've had people contact me and tell me, yeah, if it wasn't for your podcast, I wouldn't have been prepared for stuff like this. You're the one that taught me how to set boundaries for myself and do all of this. It's like I'm glad that I was a positive influence. But for me, the positive influence is that I have in the community are people like, and this is not ass kissing or anything like that. People like you posting what you do online, and me learning from your experience is what taught me about what I was supposed to do in the community. Because I'll never forget this. I had a mommy dom years ago who once told me sometimes you have to be the change that you want to see out of everything. If you want to see change, you have to be about it. And she goes, "You should
Mhm.
know this. You were an activist once when you were in high school," which she's telling the truth. I actually was a student activist back in the day, and it's like, yeah, no, and I realized that you do have to be the change that you want to see in the community. That's important.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, that's
important.
the thing. There have been so many times that I have honestly like considered and sort of scaling back on how open I am about my ABDL stuff, just because it is also a big personal thing. It's not
Hmm.
just a work thing. And I think it would be different if it was solely work, and that's like the only time I ever really dealt with it. But it's like a really personal thing to me. But you know, I've developed a really good fan base. I don't get harassed much anymore. I think I've sort of, I just got my 9-year anniversary thing on Twitter that popped up. I've been on there
Really, congratulations.
9 years. That hell site. But it's really, I've sort of aged out of people feeling like they just, can say shit to me because I'll just block people. I just block people. I don't engage. I rarely engage
Hmm.
because I want to keep my page. I don't want to get suspended or banned or anything. So I rarely engage. And but every time that I think about doing that just for the sake of just like maybe keeping it a little more private, or maybe just not receiving so much like scrutiny from people, because I know there are people that won't in the industry that won't work with me because of my
Hmm.
ABDL work. People in the porn industry, people who are into other very extreme kinks, who just that's a hard line for them. There's nothing wrong with that. You work with who you want to work with in this industry. That is a great thing. I do think it's a bit odd, but whatever, that's fine. Um, so but every time I think about doing that, it's never, I it's just not worth it to me. Like what I would actually lose, as far as like just feeling like, uh, it's just I can just restate what I said earlier. It's just important to exist in that realm, and to show people that you can exist positively and be happy and do these things regularly and without shame. I mean, a little shame's fun. Don't get me wrong. But it just it's really important. It's a really, really important thing. As soon as I think about pulling back, I get an email or I get a comment or, whatever, of just something that's really stands out to me and is so important, which is like, it's helping people. I know that I've touched more than one person with my, whether it's my sexual or non-sexual content, you know, it's just, and that's really what makes it worth it to me, because well, we're all gonna die. So
Yeah. What was it? What was it? That Philip DeFranco's son said, "Oh, one day we'll all be skeletons." So
yeah,
yeah,
I can't, like, I'm not trying to secure a legacy. I don't care, like, however many years into the future. I'm just trying to like help people enjoy their fucking life now. And I know that my videos will end up in like secret porn stashes for decades. So that's
damn
like
right.
decades beyond my life. So I just, if you know, survival of the United States and the Earth pending,
Hmm.
will will go on. But you know, it's just, that's all I'm trying to do. Just trying to help people. Just trying to have a good time. I'm sorry. I'm feeling a little talked out at this.
No, no, that's fine. That's fine. I was just gonna say, like, it. I'm really glad that you shared this because it's like everyone always like you'll be surprised. Like I'm friends with a few people in the industry, some of which I knew before they were in the industry.
Right.
But like I always get questions from people in my local community because they see like you and like Ella Rain and Lolly Lalas and all the other like ABDL people online, and then they just go, what can like I have to ask the question like like what is it like to know these people? I'm like, they're regular people just like you and me. Like it's just that they're a little bit more famous than I am. That's all it is.
It's just, it's one of those things. Like, if I can impart, you know, if there's one thing I can impart to people, you know, that listen to anything that I say or watch anything that I do, is just that, just live live your life now. Don't live your life for people who are gonna die, who are gonna be gone, and you're gonna be living your life for them when they're not even around. So just live
You
your life for yourself. Just try not to hurt people, and like, don't deny yourself the simple crinkly pleasure of a diaper if that's your thing.
I like that. We gotta trademark that. No, specifically, you need to trademark that. That definitely has to be trademarked. That was good. You like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, no, it's it's really great for people to hear this. Like I said, because like there are so many people that see you all's work and they immediately jump to like the conclusion like this person's on a completely different level than me and I wouldn't be able to breathe the atmosphere that they are breathing. And I'm like, guys, they're normal people. Like I think you're like seeing it way differently than you should.
That's the thing. I understand it though. Like, I when I first met who is now they're now a friend of mine, Cupcake Sinclair, who does a lot of extreme fetish stuff, and they do ABDL stuff. And we met each other, and we were like both the same amount of starstruck, and it was very awkward because we like couldn't quit like just being so like giddy and strange around each other. And we
Mm-hmm.
finally had to talk about it. I'm like, okay, we're just like really big fans of each other, and we didn't expect this, and so it's okay. It's all right. But yeah, that's how it goes. It's just you know, that's how you feel. But no, really, I am very extremely unimpressively normal, honestly. So especially at the moment, I will say that I was more interesting before COVID, but honestly, just scaling back so I don't constantly infect myself has been worth it. But my goodness, I just do not get out to do things. You were talking about sex clubs. I used to volunteer at a sex club. That was my favorite job. Walking around, changing sheets, watching people fuck. I will leave you with that. It's a good job to do. I got paid in drink tickets and buffet food, and they had the best buffet.
Oh, oh,
It was
yours had a buffet. We have hors d'oeuvres and stuff at ours. Like they'll make like hamburger sliders, or they made spam sandwiches once, and I was real surprised on that.
I got totally spoiled. It was schmancy. It's like the fanciest, like it was. I haven't been there in years, but like the fanciest, nicest sex swingers club in the Pacific Northwest or whatever. And I was just like, so they had a full kitchen, and they would do dinner, and then they would take that out, and then they would bring out breakfast stuff at like midnight, and like you couldn't like order specific things, but the food was really fucking good, and it was super fresh,
Wow.
and really spoiled, honestly, really, really spoiled. Yes, it has been really nice talking to you, and I really appreciate you having me on, and I would love to do a part two or talk again sometime. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I would definitely love to have you on the podcast again, cuz this was great. So I'm going to do an outro here. Thank you so much for joining us, Mercy. You're freaking awesome.
Oh,
And
thank you. I had such a nice time.
yeah, I'm so glad. And I look forward to having you back on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, of course, anytime.
All right, guys. So we got to run. I will definitely catch you guys later. See you guys soon. Bye.